And welcome back. Today we are flying out the shit-flavored Dorito called the Javelin at 8.3. Before we get started today, thank you to all the Patreons and everyone looking to buy the skill issue decal. You can do so with the link down below and you get a 3% discount on top of this absolute abomination you can plaster all over your vehicles. So, the Javelin. What makes this thing so good, and more importantly, what makes this thing such a chore to play? You can tell once we start zooming in, you see absolutely nothing because there's a second Dorito on top of the main Dorito. That's a little bit less shit flavored, but it makes the flavor more shitty altogether. The tail obstructs any kind of visibility once you start zooming in. If you don't zoom in, well, you're still gonna see absolutely nothing because the tail is just way too big and the main Dorito is still plenty big to obstruct any kind of vision, and you are gonna be needing some lead because, well, you have the Aidens which aren't very fast, and with the new ballistic changes they've become even slower. When you do hit, you mostly don't do that much damage, so I rather run 4 instead of 2. And you do so by only running 2 of the missiles. The missiles, they're also kind of shit flavored, just like the guns and the visibility, but they're not completely useless and they can come handy at times, just like this. Radar Slave, the TU4, you can kind of just fly in an off angle. You don't have to worry about its gunners. That missile is eventually going to hit the target because there's nothing the TU4 can really do about it. What is nice about this plane, however, is the absolute batshit acceleration that you get at 8.3. You can dust almost everything as long as you don't get fully up-tiered, and even then you are pretty competitive when it comes to acceleration. However, you're not very competitive when it comes to the turning circle, your retention once you start maneuvering, and basically anything when it comes to aerobie. This thing is the opposite of a Metamobile. It's gimped as hell, but you do look kinda goofy while doing it, so I guess that's a bit of a trade-off. So, is this thing enjoyable to play? I didn't have a bad time. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, this thing isn't good. You're not really gonna win anything. You can play it very slowly and you can play it very methodically and you're probably not gonna die much. It's pretty good at that. You are gonna get away with that. The issue is, you're not going to get very far other than trying to patch your KD in this game anymore because the games just last way too short. It's all about quick kills and this plane feels as goofy as it looks. It's not very good at getting quick kills in, other than the missiles being... people don't really expect them in general. But the Aidens, together with the aim ability, together with the top speed, and just... it feels so damn awkward. It doesn't feel like a plane. And I'll show you this at the end of the video where I start quote-unquote dogfighting a MiG-15 Biz. And yes, I know the MiG-15 Biz is one of the more maneuverable planes in the entire game. It's probably one of the best sustained fighters in the game, that, well, other than the B-1. The Comets, the Key 200, those kind of planes, but in general, the MiG-15 Biz on min fuel is one of the best dogfighters, at least in jets. That isn't a rocket-powered plane. And of course, it's going to struggle. But I crit the guy, and he is still going to get behind me in like 1 or 2 turns, and then if I try to break off, he is, with no effort whatsoever, just going to be catching me. So, I don't recommend trying to dogfight in this thing, just try to run energy traps. And while we're talking about energy traps, let's actually start showcasing one. So how do you fly this thing? It depends on your BR. If you are BR'd at your own tier, so let's say 8.0-ish, you can outclimb basically the entire lobby and you can just start bullying everyone. At higher altitudes, your acceleration, really you are going to be dusting everyone. Most of your games, I haven't seen a single game above 9.0. I think I got one 9.3 match. But that's about it. It's mostly going to be 8.7, some 9.0s, and a decent amount of 8.0s. I will be ignoring the 163s. I'm probably not going to be hitting them anyway. And there is a G91 pitching up for us. We have the room here. There's no one really around us. And for now, I just wanted to do the thing this plane is good at. Once people start pitching up for you, it does turn well enough to the point where you can use your energy advantage to turn around, fall on top of people, and punish them pretty hard. The issue is you have wing-mounted Aidens with a goofy rudder that blocks your view, is weird to aim, and this is my first game in it, so my aim is going to be absolutely appalling, and I recommend you to close your eyes. For all the blind people out there, what a nice one-tap. I recommend you to like the video for that one. Then we have some planes among us that are kinda scary, MiG-15 and a 163. What do we do against the MiG-15? Very easy. We kill the G91 in such a way that he flat spins, gets mad at us because we sprayed at him, and he then just kills the MiG-15. In all seriousness, if that guy didn't do me a massive solid by jerking me off below the table, I would have died right there. That MiG-15, no issue, would have killed me, and if he wouldn't have, Look at what is right behind him. It's a 163, and there is absolutely nothing I'm going to be doing against the 163 if I'm not going faster than it. Of course, that's the case for most of the planes the 163 faces, but in a plane like this, you are really not going to be doing anything. You can kind of roll around, try to evade his shots if it's the 30mm variant, but even then, it's not recommended. Just try to stay out of his range. We see a Seahawk, he's very slow, he's flying away from us. So there's not even a case of him turning into the missile, he's dead. Thank you for playing the game, back to the hangar. 163 is still loitering behind us, he's kind of looking around. And I don't want to make myself a target, so I'm just going to stay fast. And this is the opportune way to fly this plane. But it's going to... You're going to need a team for this. G91, same boat as the Seahawk. Too slow, can't turn in, he is dead. Back to the hangar. We go head on with the other Seahawk. We miss him, no big deal. We are gonna carry on doing our thing. We're gonna fly in a straight line and we are gonna ignore everyone. This plane does look like something that should be able to dogfight, at least kind of judging from the silhouette. If you look at the actual dimensions of this thing, it's one absolutely massive. And with the thickness of those wings, it's basically the foundation of my house. Granted, I don't have a very big house, but it's a house nonetheless. They're pretty damn thick. Funnily enough, if you get hit by anything, your plane simply explodes. So no, despite the wings being thick, the airframe being thick, if you get hit, you're dead. This thing does not take damage very kindly, especially if it's in the form of a singular 50 cal. Your plane is just made out of glass. I'm not sure how that works, but we're not gonna question the snail, because well, we stopped doing that in 2016. Which coincidentally is also when I started playing AirRB, but hey, who cares. 163 breaks off after a little bit, and I take this as a slight opportune time to actually go for him, because the MD450 is also going for him, and I'm gonna see if I can kind of blindside him as he is busy with someone else. So I'm gonna be pitching up after him. I don't recommend doing this, but he is distracted. Not sure why I even shot there. Very ambitious indeed, because well, I don't have 3000 ping, so that's never going to be connecting. We are gonna dive out. I don't want to do anything with that 163. If anything, I'm just trying to burn him out of fuel. And that's really the way to kill these things. They are not fun to fight for basically anything in the lobby. And yes, it's fun to 1v3 in those things. Everyone tries to actually fight you, but they shouldn't. The way to fight those things is to just run away until they're out of fuel. And once they are out of fuel, they are beyond useless, as well most planes would be. It's not a glider after all. Funnily enough, it does glide very well, and if you just kind of zero throttle it, you will basically make it across the map with 10% throttle. It's pretty funny, but you know, this isn't a review on the 163. I might do one in the future, but I don't know if anyone actually likes to see that thing. Right now, I'm just feeling the weather. I'm really not doing anything. I'm not in a rush. I still have 11 minutes of fuel, and the fuel burn isn't that excessive, so I can keep this up quite long. And yes, this is full afterburner. This is not the half afterburner trick. It just doesn't burn that much. Who do we go for? We have a 163 below us, one right above us, but I think the one at high altitude is on low fuel. He's been very aggressive. He's pointing towards the airbase, and the one below us is a much more opportune target because he's busy shooting someone. So if I'm lucky, I can shoot this guy down as he's not paying attention to us. We come in too late, 163 does see us and he breaks off, but that's no big deal. Because in the same way, if he had killed him, if that other 163 dives on us, he is not going to be quick enough to actually catch us. We do a quick look around and there is no one to be found. I also did this at the start of the game, and unfortunately for us, there are no G91s to actually start flat spinning and killing the guys around us. The guy then gets set on fire and he is out of the match. The other 163, no idea where he is. He's probably grinding or gliding back to the airfield. So let's fast forward until I meet the next specimen. There he is. It's an F-84F, and the F-84F is a pretty damn shit plane. It's much worse than this thing in practice, but the F-84F is much quicker than us. So, well, tough shit for us. We're not gonna be catching the guy. He's gonna go about 1180, 1190-ish, and we will rip way before that. The 163, that's gliding back to base, goes head on with us. We shoot in the head on as well. No sauce for the Dorito, and we just kind of put it into a climb. I don't really want to deal with the 50 cal spray, so I'm just gonna extend for a little bit, but in the background a few A4Es and a few other guys have been ground pounding. And you guessed it, the ticket system is absolutely fantastic and is going to end the game, well, prematurely, the absolute millisecond I start turning in. The issue is he probably would have been able to dive out anyway. So it doesn't really matter. He would have camped the airfield and I would have been annoyed. And now we don't have to listen to my ranting. We go head on with the Limp 5P. I have him slaved in case he turns away, he doesn't see us. And sometimes it does work quite well. In this case it didn't, and we don't have to waste a missile on him. So we just look around for our next victim. At these altitudes you are virtually uncontested. As long as you don't run into the absolute gamer mobiles, but very often you don't. And you can tell by the matchmaker that you mostly won't. If you run into an Ariete, good luck, he's gonna turn you into absolute pasta sauce. Luckily there's not many to be ran into, at least not right now. But the missile, unfortunately, it does reach him, and I thought he wasn't gonna see it, but he did react just in time, and he doesn't get hit by it. So even though we didn't waste the missile in the head-on, we still wasted it on the G91. But that very easily could have been a kill. But could have, would have, should have. In the end of the day, it didn't happen. mk.9 right above us. Is he gonna go for anyone? We don't know. We're just gonna lock him up. And then we're gonna see if we can actually do something about him. I want to clean up everyone above us, because diving is kind of the hard counter to this thing. If you get above it and you can't dive on it, you're basically dead. Why? Because it doesn't have the top speed to get away from anyone. And if they dive on you, your acceleration just doesn't matter. And if they do get on your 6, let me tell you, your turn rate is just not going to be good enough. This guy's going to go underneath us. We shoot a few rounds. Not really going to do anything. And we're just going to send it after this guy. I just want to burn this guy with all his energy. I just want to park myself on this guy's 6. And this is not something you should do if there are no teammates around. If you do stick on a mk.9 like that, you're eventually going to get reversed unless he very much throws it completely. So, no kill yet. We look around again, and really this is the way you fly it. Very slow, take your time, pick your targets, and see who you can actually engage. Mafu coming head on, shoot some rounds, we don't hit anything. He rolls into the opposite direction of what we can actually pull into, and we come around with 0 kills again. But then we notice the F80F. It's probably an F40, and the missile confirms it. And he is going to be stalling himself out. Limp 5P is somewhat engaged right now, and he is not going to have the energy to contest us directly. He will be able to in the long run, but he turns around again. And now we have the opportunity to energy trap the F40 here. And the F40 is going to go very slow, very quickly in this kind of maneuver. And we are just gonna land on top of him and see if we can shoot him down. He gets killed by a friendly, but you can tell right there, that guy would have been dead to us if he hadn't been killed by someone else. Very handily. It doesn't matter how bad my aim is, I'm not gonna miss 652 rounds from that kind of range. Maybe 650, but not 652. And we still have a missile left. We shoot it at the Limp 5. And I did kind of misjudge the scenario, because it might reach him, but that's not gonna happen. We go ahead on with a G91 R3. Miss my shots again. And once you start getting a little bit frustrated with this thing, it becomes an absolute chore to play. It doesn't feel very great once it doesn't click anymore. If this plane clicks with you, it feels okay. You can make it work and you can get around a lot of scenarios. But once you start falling out of rhythm with it, and you start missing all your rounds, you start missing all your missiles, this thing becomes absolutely dreadful. G91 R4, we just shoot a few rounds at him and he absolutely implodes. And we just check our surroundings and mainly go back for the Limp 5P. The Limp 5P here is definitely the biggest threat in the lobby. But sometimes, if the good planes are playing it properly, you're not going to be taking them down very easily when there's a lot of trash around it. And I don't mean that in the sense that these players are bad. I mean it in the sense that G91 R3s are going to do absolutely nothing to this thing. But if I get slow with a Limp 5 and a G91 is in the area, I'm done. You need to get rid of the lower level mobs basically. Because G91s are really... they're a pest to deal with. But they're really not that dangerous if you are on a plane with good acceleration. The G91s, they burn all their speed very quickly. And they don't really get it back that fast. They do get it back pretty quickly from 0 to 750. But at those speeds you shouldn't be at anyway. So they are really only a pest if they get on your 6 and they're already quicker than you and you can't do anything about them. If you run into a G91 and he's within like 1.3 kilometers and he's catching you in this thing, oh, you're done. But if you can put it into like a shallow climb and you can accelerate out of that top speed, you can get away. But if they catch you and they get within range, trust me, you're not gonna have a fun time on this thing. All the rat vehicles, they kind of hard counter it. If they keep their speed and they just make sure that they dodge you all day long, eventually, if you don't play it slow enough, you're gonna succumb to it and feel No Nut November. Yes, most of you already did, I know. And now we dive on the limb 5p. I mean, at this point it's just a matter of infinite boom and zooming. I have plenty of ammo, so I'm gonna use all my ammo. And now he's just kind of flying straight, so we hold the trigger down, get a few hits in, and he falls apart. mk.9 behind us and a mk.9 right ahead of us. Who do we want to go for? The one ahead of us, of course, because we don't want to turn around, burn all our speed, because we're only going 800 to begin with. And this guy's already coming towards us. Anyway, we shoot in the head on, he dodges, and then I see it's a mk.9 bis-ish. Now, it doesn't really matter, because he is still plenty good to deal with us. In the case of dealing with a mk.9, it doesn't really change at all if you're flying this thing. But it does indicate that he's a premium player, which makes the likelihood of him not being as experienced a little bit bigger. So Super Big Brother in the background is going to be a little bit of our priority. And mainly because this guy is trying to chase me, even though he's very clearly not catching us. And for the first time today, someone actually breaks off once that starts happening. Very often, even though you outrun someone, even though you are completely dusting, walking, whatever you want to call it, someone, they will insist to keep going for you. And why, I have no clue. But the mk.9 is now somewhat tangled up with the A4B. He completely forgets that we exist. And he gives us a lot of positioning here. We are going to start catching us. We are going to start catching him, I mean. We take some ambitious shots. We don't get any hits in. Notice the other mk.9 coming in. So we're going to go head on with him as well. Shoot a few rounds. Shoot way too low because he pulls up a little bit later than expected. And now they are both behind us. And we can kind of start running trains on them. The mk.9 for some reason decides it's a good idea to full commit head on the Vautour, but it turns out he was actually out of fuel. I only saw that message just now. It only popped up for a very short moment on our screen. And then we dive on the mk.9, we take a few rounds, and boom, back to the hangar he goes. And here we have it, a mk.9 that's been chasing me until the merge. We head on him, he turned around. Well, we are now 6 kilometers away, and he is still chasing us. This guy is not going to be letting us go, so I'm just going to be fighting him, because I really can't be asked to run away from this guy all game long. And if we do lose, it's a nice learning moment. And if you win, I can showcase you as well. We go head on, we get a crit in. So this mk.9 is now damaged. He is still not going to be catching us. And I'm simply just going to be running away back to my team. Why does this guy insist on chasing us? I honestly have no clue. He is catching us for a very short while. Why is that? Because he's cutting us off. Once we start flying straight away from him, he is not going to be catching us at all. There we go. He goes head on with that guy. And now I just think to myself, well, he's already crit. He might have taken some damage with the Vautour. I'm just going to try dogfighting him. Is this a good idea? Absolutely not. And that's why it's at the end of this clip. So we throttle down a little bit to not make our turning circle too big. And let's look at this. We're going to try to just make him overshoot by rolling and using scissors. Air braking the whole ordeal. Let's try to get behind him. And we do pretty quickly. And then we try to pull into his flight path. We almost do so, but not quite. We are too slow. We don't have the energy to really turn into this guy anymore. And now we become an absolute massive flying shit slap. So we pull into him one more time until he has to make a full 180. And then we're simply going to leave the area. And when I say simply leave the area, I want you to look at his airspeed once he comes out of that turn. We were much slower than him, and he was still almost turning inside of us, which is a very big red flag. We're only going 700, but I still just want to turn into this guy. Why? Just to show you how big the discrepancy really is. We turn in, we dodge his rounds, barely do so actually, and he's still much quicker than us. We don't get the shot. Just a little bit short, because, well, this plane is just too heavy. We're only going 300, he has much more energy than us, and he is going to be able to pull into this if he flies straight, so we're just going to all in for the shot. Why? To get position back, and I'm going to try to run away one more time. I am burning a lot of speed here, I'm playing it very poorly, but it's just to show you that you don't want to start dealing with mk.9s, and he is still going for us at the same time, and he's going to be catching us quite handily. But for the second time, the G91R3 is going to come in clutch in this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.